Let's go back to the book of Genesis, and I'm going to read for you from Genesis chapter 6, verse 5 to verse 9. But I encourage you to read the entire story of Noah in your own personal study so you can develop more of how this grace works in our life. So Genesis chapter 6, verse 5. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them all the animals and the birds and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of God. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah decided to separate himself from the ways of the world. He decided that in the age of evil, where the corruption was so great that God looked and said, I can't look at this anymore, and he almost destroyed every single person, every single animal, he looked at Noah and he found grace in the eyes of God. The righteousness and the perfection, the blamelessness that is found in Noah's life is because of the grace of God. To avoid temptation and to live a life free of corruption, he needed the grace of God in his life, just like you and I today who live in a life that has corruption surrounding us. We live in a life where we need the grace of God to help us avoid temptations that are at our fingertips sometimes. And God decided that he needed to get rid of the corruption and the things of the world through the flood, as the rest of the chapter goes on to explain to us. However, Noah found grace. He told Noah a detailed plan of what he was going to do. And he told Noah exactly how to build the ark, what animals he was supposed to bring, how he was going to do everything that needed to get done. And Noah could have easily said, no way, this doesn't make any sense. How can you make a flood? How can I build this ark? Noah could have easily said no. But Noah had to have a very important thing that we had discussed earlier. He had to have faith. He had to have faith in a God who is faithful to us. The one who calls us is faithful. And he had to have faith that what God said is true and what God says is real. And he had to follow through with the plan to the T of what God had wanted. In fact, when you read the Bible and you continue to read about the ark that Noah was asked to build by God, God gives him exact measurements. He talks to him about the exact design. He even tells him of the wood that needs to be used to build the ark. So a detailed plan is given. But Noah had to have faith. He had to have faith to do everything that God had told him to do to prepare for the flood that was coming. So Noah's faithfulness to what God said, coupled with the grace of God, shows us that Noah was saved. He and his family were saved from being destroyed in the flood. At the end of the flood, when everything, all the animals and all the people were destroyed, Noah and his family still stood. This shows us, this life of Noah, this telling of Noah's life shows us that he was saved by grace and through faith. Likewise, you and I are called to salvation. You and I are called to follow Christ. And when we choose to take that first step of faith, coupled with the grace of God, you and I are saved by grace and through faith.